folks, this is Con Stapleton from Deadwood Alive again. Got another video for you about what we got coming up this spring and summer and fall. Now, if you've been following along with us, we've got a new series that we're working on. We're going to talk about clothing and firearms of a particular era each day. Last week we talked about gunfighter / cowboy era, the 1870s, what they might have been wearing on horseback. The week before that, we talked about the firearms of the Civil War era. So we're going to continue on with firearms today, kind of picking up where we left off with the Civil War. We talked about the 1860 Army a little bit then. Another really popular one I'm going to talk about today is the 1851 Navy. Now, you hear me talking about Navy and Army. What's the difference? Well, Army denotes 44 caliber. Navy is 36 caliber. That was their particular choices. So this would have been like a Navy model here, was 36 caliber. One of the big things about it, it loaded just like the one we talked about last week, where you have to press the ball down in it. You have to load a percussion cap on the back. It takes quite a little while to load. And it isn't real easy if you want to take it apart. People talk about, well, you can get a spare cylinder and make reloading faster. You've got to pull the whole darn gun apart to do anything with it. Not practical whatsoever. Well, Remington came out with a 58 model that was a full frame. And I think their intention was to make it easier to pull that cylinder out, have a spare cylinder, change it out, if I can get it to go there, and put a new one in. I don't know as they really did that a lot in the heat of battle. I would think you would probably drop that. But you could. I think most of them just carried an extra pistol around, tossed that one away, shot with the next one. Back then, the manufacturing processes probably weren't as good. So if you were to get a different cylinder, it probably wouldn't work that well in a different gun. But that was kind of the intention. It was a lot easier to work with. So that would have been the 58 Remington. A lot of those guys back in the 1870s would have still been carrying their military-issued firearms or firearms from that era. In fact, Wild Bill Hickok carried one like that first one I showed you, that 1851 Navy. He was very partial to that particular weapon. Now, in 1855, a fellow named Roland White come up with this idea while he was working for Colt. He took some of their discarded cylinders and got to thinking, if I was to drill all the way through that thing, I could put a cartridge in there and it would make it a lot quicker to reload. So he come up with this idea, he left Colt, patented it, and set up a licensing agreement with Smith & Wesson to use that patent. Well, they gave him 25 cents per gun that they sold, but he was responsible for defending that patent in court, which eventually ended up to his ruin. It cost him too much money to defend that patent. Never really made any money off of it. Now, he offered that patent to Colt in 1867 for $1 million, and they declined. Well, Smith & Wesson, they were using that patent. They made the Model 1, the Model 2, the Model 3 American. And then the military decided that they were going to update and adopt a new pistol. So the ones in contention were the 73 Colt. This one was a little different version. You could actually open up this little side door right here, slide this little pin down. If I can get it to align. This is a reproduction, non-firing, so it doesn't work very well. But that would kick your shell out. You could put a new one in, rotate it around, and do it again. So it's fairly quick. It took about a minute to reload that pistol. That was one of the options that the government was looking at. Now, Smith & Wesson's version, this is not quite the exact one, and I'll tell you why here in a minute, was the Model 3, and it broke open from the top, and you could put all 6 rounds in at once. Close it. Took about 30 seconds, so it was a lot faster. The military actually ended up adopting the 73 Peacemaker. They called it a Peacemaker. It was a single-action army. They eventually adopted this one. Well, General George Schofield in 1875, he come back and he looked at this pistol, and he added some new ideas to it, got a new patent on it, and they called it the Model 3 Schofield. And the government eventually bought over 8,000 of these things. Now, the big difference between them was how they loaded. It was a lot quicker. You could do that on horseback. You're going down, you're riding, you could pop that open with your thumb, load your other rounds in it, keep going, and away you go. Now, another difference was the cylinder was a little bit shorter. So you can see how short this one is compared to this one. The bullets aren't as long. The rounds aren't quite as long. So you couldn't use Colt ammunition in a Schofield, but Schofield ammunition would work in a Colt. So the government saw that these two pistols were getting used so widely that they developed a new version of ammo, called it the 1887 military ball cartridge, and it would work in both of them. So that's what they released after that. So if you were carrying either one, you got the military ammunition and it would work just fine. Now the Peacemaker, along with the 1873 Winchester rifle, were called the guns that tamed the American West. Now I don't have an 1873 Winchester to show you, but we're working on it. We are going to be getting more firearms, more replicas, more firing replicas. Hopefully we'll get to fire some of them off and show you how they sound. The black powder pistols put out a lot of smoke. I want to show you the difference between that and the newer powders that were used. So we're working on all kinds of things for this new series that we're going to start middle of March, Fridays and Saturdays. During the summer, we're going to run 6 days a week, and then in the fall, we're going to go back to Fridays and Saturdays. For more information about when we're doing these things, what we're going to be doing, check out our website at deadwoodalive.com. While you're at it, check out deadwoodhistory.com, deadwood.com, outlawsquare.com, because all these shows we're going to be doing at the Outlaw Square in the spring. Check all these places out on the internet, see what's going on. We've got all kinds of exciting things going for you. So get up here, be looking for us, and we'll be looking out for you.